the consulting services where we go on to those next high level things like social media marketing and digital selling and such like that. And it's something that actually I'm interested in incorporating more towards the students that are looking to actually start those businesses. And I want to definitely add more components of the digital world and having them, figure out how can they use technology and use the digital world to, benefit their business and the plans for the future of their business and the growth.
I got to say that's really interesting, and it's noble also because you're encouraging young minds to turn into to do these things. I had spoken to an HR professional several years ago, and they were talking about how the whole what's the word I should say model of employment is moving away from this full-time full benefits model to contractors, and you need tons and tons of entrepreneurs to fill up those opportunities. So I think it's a fantastic way that you're doing this. My question to you then is, when you're looking at harnessing these social medias, what are you teaching kids? I mean, right now, these kids are, let's look at Facebook not Facebook. I'm sorry, Snapchat. Looking at that to make, I learned from my kids. They have a thing called streaks, and that seems to be a big thing. How do you teach them to use something like that to leverage it for business?
The biggest thing I'm doing with the students I mentor is teaching them how to use social media as a tool to build a personal brand. That is the area I see is the most effective, where they're constantly putting out content. They're engaging and connecting with different people across the world through the internet. And also in terms of self-motivation and confidence, they're putting themselves out there and they're learning how to communicate across the network and be able to talk to people and really just show their leadership and their ability to connect with others and not be afraid to put their thoughts on the internet in different forms, whether it be written or video, audio, pictures, whatever it may be. But having a social presence is so important in this current day and age. And for them to leverage the fact that they have access to the internet and access to millions of people across these different networks, it's great leverage points that they could use to build a personal brand that's going to aid their business as well. And it's something that it's so important. And going forward, as everything goes to the digital world, they're going to need it more and more. And the earlier they start and the earlier they get this knowledge and this information to get started early, the better they're going to be for the future when they're adults and they're looking to have a full-time job or stay in the business world and be an entrepreneur.
And I really love that. Gary, it sounds like you were going to ask something.
Yeah, I was just thinking, have you heard of Lemonade Day, Darrel?
I've heard of it, yes.
Okay. It sounds like there's a similar initiative there because they're focused on helping young kids learn entrepreneurial values through the form of a lemonade stand. I mean, it sounds simple enough, lemonade stand, but I mean, you have the exchange of money, you have the selling. I'm actually working on that with my daughter. Need to get that rolling a little quicker, but yeah, that's one thing we're talking about. And if you think about it, everything's involved, just a lemonade stand. So I think that's cool. It's definitely with me with two daughters. It's something that I'm a big advocate of. So I can definitely appreciate what you're doing.
Oh yeah, man. It's so awesome because these kids, regardless if they end up becoming entrepreneurs or they go into the workforce, just the skills you learn through entrepreneurship is useful for any corporation in many different avenues. So it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I really want these skills that entrepreneurs have to be embedded into these kids at an early age and to make sure that they're getting information that they won't get just through traditional schooling. So I want to be able to provide that value to them.
Yeah, and traditional schooling, it doesn't really prepare you, at least from what I've seen, doesn't really prepare you to start a business or to run a business. It prepares you for a task to get done. And I've talked to a couple of different people that have graduated with degrees in marketing, and they're not even teaching them how to build a website. And you would think that, if you're majoring in marketing, you could get out and make some money off of the $50,000 you just spent on your college education or higher, whatever that number is. So I mean, it's needed. It's definitely needed.
Yeah.
100%.
Hey, Darrel, Go ahead.
Darrel, so when we spoke, you mentioned that I don't know if it's in with the next week or this month, some point, you're going to open up your first entrepreneur center, urban entrepreneur center, and you also have a podcast that you have just started. But what I wanted to ask is that when Urban Entrepreneur Centers opens up, and the kids or young adults come in to work with you and your people, what can you kind of talk through, like what a high level view of Urban Entrepreneur Center is going to look like?
Okay. Yeah. So pretty much we're going to have various locations across the country. We're going to mostly target inner cities. So where students otherwise probably wouldn't have any, those resources to help them start businesses. We're going to have locations in shopping centers next to like regular like grocery stores and stuff like that, where we're going to be able to provide value to students away from like the school campus or the school that they attend. Is going to be in just the like in the city area, so that way it's accessible to parents and the youth alike, where they can go into these centers and utilize the resources that we have available to them. Going to have different courses for them that they can actually earn college credits as well towards different majors surrounding like business and entrepreneurship, stuff like that.
I see. Okay. And one of the other things that I mean, you're very active on social media, LinkedIn in particular, and Facebook. I know that you and I are connected on both those, and probably Instagram as well, I think. But as far as the Urban Entrepreneur Center goes, and being able to reach the parents so that you can get to the kids, I don't know if this is exactly the way that you're trying to reach the kids about evangelizing and entrepreneurship. But who are you looking to reach? And it seems like you're going to be doing it through social media. And talk a little bit more about your social media marketing.
Yeah, so our target is the high school students. So we're going to target parents, of course, because we have to get the parents to sign their kids up for these programs. But we want the students to be engaged and to know what's going on and to be highly excited about the programs and entrepreneurship in general. So we're pushing out content in various different forms, whether it be the podcast or daily tips and success tips that I'm posting, such like that. We have other avenues where we're going to get into as well, with video and audio and many other things, to have a strategy that we're going to engage with youth through the internet. So even if they can't make it to one of our physical centers, we're going to be able to have that reach and that impact through the different social media channels and content that we're going to be pushing out through the center.
That's amazing how you're harnessing technology and harnessing the availability that we have. I mean, for example, you're in New Jersey and we're here in Houston, and the three of us are in different locations in Houston. And to be able to provide this sort of technology to underprivileged youth, I think that's absolutely fantastic. I did want to touch on another point. We kind of touched on it earlier about social media marketing and personal brand image. That's something that I feel that you're clearly doing on social media. We can see that, like you said, with your daily tips. Can you talk to us a little bit about the example you are setting for these youth through your social media presence and your digital brand or personal brand that you're creating?
Okay. For me personally, I started my own nonprofit when I was in college, and I ran that for 5 years, 4 years in college and 1 year after I graduated.
Amazing.
And then 3 years after school, I worked in corporate, and I was away from my mentoring program, so I wasn't able to mentor for 3 years because I moved from Trenton and I moved up to North Jersey, so I was a little too far away to make that trip on a weekly basis. So after being away from my program for some time, I really started to feel unfulfilled, and I wanted to be able to mentor and have an impact. And the thing that came to my mind was, well, I got to use the internet. I got to use the fact that we're connected on different social media platforms that I can, still mentor and give advice and help youth and help people in general through the internet. So that's what led me to first start my Success Tip series, where I post a daily tip every single day. And through building a brand around myself and the fact that, I'm dedicated enough to post these tips every day, I show that, hey, if you post, consistently, and you are telling a message and telling your story, you can build a personal brand. And it's very beneficial to you, especially as entrepreneurs, to build a personal brand, because they're not just buying your product or service, they're buying you. And when you understand that, you can make decisions in your content and your social media presence that's going to aid your business and aid what you're doing and your goals. So I've built a personal brand around myself. I've made a lot of connections online, made a lot of new friendships, built a lot of relationships. And I truly believe that if you focus on building those relationships, the brand comes automatically. And it's just, being yourself and providing value at every corner of the way, and understanding that, hey, you have a big impact on people in so many different ways that you would never have thought, as long as you're putting out the right messages and really, providing the value that you want to provide.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Especially one thing that resonated with me was you said be yourself, and I see that trending right now, and within social media platforms is being authentic. And you think about in the digital world right now, everybody sees everything, so you can't really put on a persona or some sort of you can't have split personalities, one at work and one because everybody sees everything. So I think, anyways, that comment you made, I'm hearing more and more about that. On your tips, so I saw on your page you recently reached 100 tips, which is awesome.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, yes.
I'm on 185. I'm about to reach 200 in a few weeks.
Gary,
wow.
excuse yourself.
Yeah.
So what I did, when I hit 100, I did my top 10 tips 1 through 100, and I'm going to do the same thing once I hit 200. My top 10 tips between 100 and 199. So that's what we probably saw, and it's great just to be consistent and keep on pushing out these daily tips. It's something that has done a lot for me in my personal brand, and a lot of people reach out to me telling me how much just my daily tips have helped them, do things that they've been on edge and wanting to do for their whole life. And it's important that, I just keep it up and don't stop, because those tips could have an impact on somebody that would allow them to do something that they probably wouldn't have done otherwise. So it's an amazing feeling. I just want to, provide the value that is going to help as many people as possible.
Out of those 100 tips, what would you say are the top 3 that you could tell somebody, a young person that's trying to make something for themselves, make a business or whatever? What are the top 3 in your mind?
Let's see.
Start with 1.
I would say my biggest one is relationships are the single most important thing in the world. I really believe in the fact that if you focus on building relationships, and relationships come in so many different forms. Relationships could be like a relationship you have with a friend, with a family member. It can be a relationship with a coworker, employee, a customer, a mentor or mentee. Relationships come in so many different forms. And then most importantly, there's the relationship with yourself. So if you focus on relationships, that's the key to success, because everything is just a function of what the relationship is. And if you connect those 2 things together, you will always win by focusing your energy on the relationships.
So when you're talking about building relationships, what do you think is the number one thing that people should keep in mind when they're starting a business and going out and trying to develop these relationships? What's the first and foremost thing that a person should take away from?
I just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Be genuine and be honest and open at all times, because being honest and open is going to help you build those strong relationships, and it's going to be so authentic that it's going to be an easy connection that you're going to make, because you're just being yourself. The reason why sometimes people struggle is because they're trying to do or act as if they're trying to figure out, hey, what I'm going to do, what I think is going to work for you, as opposed to just doing what you would naturally do. So I would just be honest and be open, and that's the best way to connect with people and build those relationships.
Yeah, I would also add that when you are letting yourself be vulnerable to other people, it builds that authenticity even more. So another way of saying just be fearless, which can be hard to overcome, I guess, and that's like probably something that we all know about. But just be vulnerable. But Gary, I think you're about to say something too.
Yeah. I just had a thought. So I put a post on LinkedIn the other day, and it was a thought I had because I know we all go to networking events on occasion, and
Hold on. You thinking is very dangerous, but please continue.
I know. We're about to get deep here. Put on your boots. All right. So we all go to a lot of networking events, right? And if you go up to somebody in a networking event, you could walk up to anybody, somebody that you would probably never hang out with, you could never see yourself hanging out with, and you walk up to them, you start a conversation with them. You can show up to any networking event. It could be something that you're not even interested in, and you walk up to somebody, they're going to have a conversation with you, right?
Yep.
Most of the time. They will never walk off, or they'll never just stare at you and say, they're going to talk to you. But in some cases, they may not want to talk to you, right? And on social media, they have that option of not talking with you or engaging with you. Like if you send a private message through LinkedIn or whatever. So would you say social media is more honest? People are more authentic on social media than they are in person because they have that kind of option? Just a thought.
That's a real interesting thought. I wouldn't say they're more honest. I guess it's just more convenient for them to make an action that's more convenient for them. So like if they weren't in the mood or weren't ready to talk to somebody, or they didn't think that whatever the person had to say was valuable, it's easier for them to make the option of not talking to them. Because when someone walks up to you in person, it's kind of hard to just say, oh, don't talk to me. So in a sense, I can see what you're saying. But in a sense, sometimes people at first, they might not think that they want to talk to them, but once they're in the conversation, they're like, wow, I'm so glad we spoke. So it's also a cripple because it gives people the luxury of being able to avoid people in a different way that they never had the option to before.
Yeah, it's almost, in some cases, it's like more freedom a little bit, But so back to the relationship piece. So with that being said, if you want to build a relationship with somebody through personal branding or digitally, how do you get over that hurdle and build that relationship?
I would say kind of come with a purpose, because when you reach out to people, even in a networking event, you do need to have a reason, because if you're speaking to someone and you have no value that you're offering to them, or no value in the conversation, it kind of doesn't go anywhere. So I would say, try to see what makes sense. Like you can attack it in different directions. You can just have like regular conversations about, oh, how's the day? Or what's your background? Where do you work? Different things like that. Or you can really go niche deep into what you're very passionate about. So for me, I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. I'm passionate about mentoring. So if I ever have a conversation with someone and they have that same passion, the value is right there because we have a common interest. So find that middle ground, that common ground, and that's the best way to connect with people. Or like I said, just connect on a human level and just be genuine, be open, and just, show that, hey, you're a human, I'm a human, and we can connect on this level, just being friendly. And a lot of times that is just enough to build some sort of relationship that can build as you go on and as you communicate through different channels.
That's a good point. I think it ties back to something we heard previously on one of these podcasts, and it ties back to, I mean, with the profile they have on LinkedIn, you can kind of see what they're all about, what they're writing about, where they work, and so you have options available to connect with them. For instance, I was scheduling a meeting with a chief technology officer at a big company, and through LinkedIn, I saw that he went to University of Houston, and I started talking about U of H. I saw he had mentored at U of H, and he responded back, "Go Cougs," and we ended up getting a meeting out of it. But if I would have just started off with, hey, I have this cool technology that I want to tell you
Yeah.
about. You want to buy it? I mean, you would never say it like that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, it sounds like the 3x3 rule that we've talked about before.
Yes, that's what I was trying to think of. 3x3. 3 minutes to find 3 things about somebody. Yep.
Gary, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because a lot of people do go in with the, hey, I have this product or technology, do you want it? And it's the wrong strategy. It doesn't work. People don't want to just be sold to. They want to have the connection. They want to know who they're speaking with. They want to be able to feel like you're not just trying to sell to them. They want to feel like, hey, you are actually interested in who I am as a person. And if the value you want to provide is through that product, you got to show them the product in a better way than just throwing it at them.
Yes. Talk about the way it benefits them, or connect with them on a personal level.
Yeah.
And we use the example sometimes, you wouldn't ask, if you went on a first date with somebody, you wouldn't ask them to marry you on the first date. You got to get to know them a little bit. They have to know what you're all about. You got to know what they're all about. So, yeah.
Actually, Gary uses that example because he tried that a couple of times.
Yeah, it's traffic versus depth, right? So if you go on enough first dates, somebody is going to marry you.
On that first date.
On the first date. My wife married me on the first date.
Well, she's a lovely lady and she's really beautiful. So.
Kelly, if you're listening,
yeah. Probably type it in the chat box. Yeah, right. Funny story though, and I know we got to wrap things up. So when we first started dating, she lived in Houston and I lived in San Antonio, or Canyon Lake, right by San Antonio. We couldn't visit each other, so we did live streaming video through Skype for like 2 or 3 weeks, like every night. But we built a relationship with technology, live streaming video, and then when we started dating, like when we actually started, I started traveling there every weekend. We were engaged in like a month, and now we've been married 7 years now. So
nice.
Well,
excellent,
guys. We're gonna start wrapping up, and before we do, Darrel, could you tell us and tell the audience where they can find you, how they can connect with you, and where we can get more information about all the fantastic work you're doing?
Definitely. The best way, I'm a LinkedIn fanatic, so find me on LinkedIn. My name, Darrel D. Frater. You can find me on almost any platform, but find me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to reach me. And like you said earlier, tune into the podcast, the Urban Entrepreneur Podcast.
Yeah.
Various shows that we're putting out to provide value to small business owners and people interested in entrepreneurship. We've got a lot of content coming out, so just stay tuned. And like I said, within a couple of months, we're going to be opening up the first Urban Entrepreneur Center in Columbus, Ohio. And then hopefully by next, probably second quarter of 2019, I'll be opening the first center here in New Jersey. And I'm actually planning a conference right now called the Urban Entrepreneur Conference. And that should be hopefully in December. Fingers crossed, but stay tuned. Like I said, LinkedIn is the best way to reach me, and looking forward to meeting you all and connecting.
Absolutely. Darrel, it sounds like we might want to reconnect after the start of the year and hear an update on how everything's going with your center openings and your conference. And we're going to have a conference as well. So we'd like to reconnect with you at some point early in 2019, see how things are going. But thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time and sharing some of your tips and secrets of your journey as an entrepreneur, man. We really liked it. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Jerry, take it away.
I will. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Once again, this is 24 Floors Up. And thanks, everybody, for joining us this week once again. We'll have all of Darrel's information in the show notes, in the comments, and in the descriptions. So make sure you connect with him and get those daily positive affirmations for all of you. So thanks again. We're gonna shut down. Darrel, if you could just hang out just for a couple of minutes afterwards. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Bye.